Good evening, brethren. So we can start with the study. We'll continue with chapter 4, Nehemia, verse 1. And it came to be when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, that he was wroth and highly offended and mocked the Yahudim. So Sanballat, we saw this character in the previous chapters. It means strength, the Horonite. And as we had seen, he represented the beast, the world leader. And it came to be when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, as in the beast, when he realizes that Yahweh is establishing his kingdom through the chosen few. As we know, Yahweh will establish his kingdom during the time of the New World Order, during the time of the beast and his 10 horns, 10 toes, as we read in Daniel 2. So, and it came to be when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, that he was wroth and highly offended and mocked the Yahudim, just like the beast will mock the chosen. And he will be offended by the fact that we still believe in the Most High and reject the system and the New World Order and all of that he or the system is offering. And it came to be when Sanballat, which represents the beast, heard that we were rebuilding the wall, which represents the kingdom of Yahweh, which we are building right now through the true doctrine in Mashiach Yahushua, the cornerstone, that he was wroth and highly offended, as the beast will be, and mocked the Yahudim, as the beast will do. He will mock the chosen few who praise Yahweh, which is the meaning of Yahudim, those who praise Yahweh. And he spoke before his brothers and the army of Shomrom. And he spoke before his brothers and the army of Shomrom and said, what are these feeble Yahudim doing? Look the way in which he refers to the Yahudim as feeble. Shomrom represents those who keep the Torah. The meaning of Shomrom is those who guard. And it would refer to those who keep the Torah through the letter, not through the Ruach. That's why they are with the beast as his brothers. Remember how the scripture talks about those who claim to be Yahudim but are the synagogue of Satan? And they will, the false Yahudim, the Jewish people, will see the beast as a Messiah, for the Jewish people are waiting for two Messiahs. So the beast to the Jews will be a Messiah. So here, and he spoke before his brothers and the army of Shomrom, would be as the beast speaking to the synagogue of Satan, those who keep the Torah through the letter, and therefore, as we know, the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. So when he spoke before his brothers in the army of Shomrom and said, what are these feeble Yahudim doing? Just like he will think of us, the beast will think of us for being so few, and not only few, but being that which the world rejects. Are they going to restore slaughter completed in a day? Are they going to restore slaughter completed in a day? Interestingly enough, the day of Yahweh is approaching, and it will be during that day that Yahweh will establish his kingdom. So in a day, but a day of Yahweh, 1,000 years. Are they going to restore slaughter completed in a day? As we know, first comes the restoration of the kingdom of the doctrine by taking the few from the apostasy. Then comes the slaughter or the sacrifice of the two witnesses. And then it will be completed in a day, the day of Yahweh. So look at the order: restore slaughter, complete in a day. Restore the doctrine, go through the sacrifice, complete the mission in the day of Yahweh. Then are they going to bring to life the stones? Look at that. Are they going to bring to life the stones from the heaps of rubbish which are burned? Remember that Yahushua said that Yahweh could bring sons of Abraham from the stones. It says here, will they bring from the stones? You see how it says Abanim? As you guys know already, I hope. Banim is sons. Sons. Abanim is stones. Stones. So that's why Yahushua said that Yahweh could bring Banim from the Abanim. So now that this beast, Zambalat, is saying what he's saying, it connects with that which we see in the new covenant. For it says, and are they going to restore slaughter completed in a day? Are they going to bring life to the stones? Are they going to bring to life the stones? Remember that Yahushua is the cornerstone, and the 144,000 are living stones who will be built over the cornerstone. So they will be brought to life when they are transformed into their new bodies and become part of the temple as stones. Are they going to bring to life the stones? Also, you know how Jewish people put stones on the graves. Stones represent witnesses. And when a person dies, he remains like a stone. So are they going to bring to life the stones? Could be seen as they going to bring back to life those who are dead from the heaps of rubbish which are burned from Sheol. And Tobiah, the Ammonite, was beside him, who represents the second beast, the false prophet, who is of his people. And he said, whatever they build, if a fox should climb on it, he shall break down their stone wall. So look at how they were mocking them. Now the false prophet, who has a positive name, shows himself to be very wicked. And he said, whatever they build, if a fox should climb on it, he shall break down their stone wall. Saying the stone wall won't last. It will be weak. So a small animal could bring it down easily. You know, Mashiach called Herod a fox. And then, as we know, the Roman leaders destroyed the temple. So that's interesting how, in a way, this could be seen as a prophecy. Whatever they build, and a prophecy, in a way, made by the false prophet, and a negative one at that. So whatever they build, if a fox should climb on it, he shall break down their stone wall. So that's what they will think about us and what we are building. Hear, O our Elohim, for we have become despised. And those are the ones that Yahweh chooses. So in a way, it is a good thing to become despised by the world, because Yahweh chooses that which is despised. Hear, O our Elohim, for we have become despised, and turn back their reproach on their own heads, and give them as a prey in a land of captivity. Turn back the reproach on their own heads. As we know, the beast and the false prophet will kill the two witnesses who are the leaders of the chosen few who do not die. So since they killed the two leaders of those who won't die, then the beast and the false prophet will have to go to the lake of fire without dying. So they will be thrown in the lake of fire alive. Turn back their reproach on their own heads and give them as a prey in a land of captivity. And do not cover over their crookedness like they do to remain in power over this earth. They cover their crookedness, and Yahweh allows it because this is a world of darkness in which truth is hidden, and he allows evil to act and exist for it to be condemned at the end of it. So eventually their crookedness will be uncovered. In fact, the book of Revelation, if the name is Hidgalut. For some believe is Hasion, which in that case would be a vision. But revelation, taken from apocalypse in the Greek, means to reveal something. Therefore, Hidgalut is the one that some believe would be the true name of the book, which would mean uncover. Do not cover over the crookedness, and do not let their sin be blotted out from before you, for they have provoked you before the builders. Look how, for instance, Mashiach, when he came, he said, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. When they were killing him, Yahushua came to bring mercy as the high priest to forgive sins. That's why he prayed that way. Now NejemYah represents the last, as in Noah. Remember, like we saw in the first chapter, the Son of Man coming like the days of Noah. The first two letters of NejemYah refer to Noah. So the fact that he prays this way is a bit different than how Mashiach prayed. Mashiach prayed for them to be forgiven, but now that they know and rejected the first, now the last prays for them to be rejected, for them to be punished. Do not cover over their crookedness, and do not let their sin be blotted out from before you, for they have provoked you before the builders. So we build the wall, and the entire wall was joined together up to the half of it, for the people had a heart to work. So we built the wall, and the entire wall was joined together up to the half of it, for the people had a heart to work. And it came to be when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabs and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being repaired and the broken places began to be filled, that they became very wroth. So now it repeats their anger, pretty much, that of the two beasts, Sanballat and Tobiah, representing the two beasts, and the Arabs, the Ammonites, the Ashdodites, as representing the nations. Muslims, represented by the Arabs. Ammonites, which could be, that means of his people, so it could be seen as Israelites. And Ashdodites, which in this case could be Christians. That the walls of Jerusalem were being repaired and the broken. And when I say Christians, I mean those who have the false doctrine, of course, right? I will spoil, just like the many will be spoiled during the Great Tribulation. So it fits them being the Christians. So as in Muslims, Jewish, Christians. And it came to be when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabs and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being repaired and the broken places began to be filled, which this connects. Remember how when Eliyahu or John the Baptist came to prepare the way for Mashiach, he pretty much came to do this, repair the broken places and began, repair the way and fill the broken places, as in to make a way for Mashiach, straight way for Mashiach, as we see in Isaiah. What I mean by that is by the two witnesses coming with the 144,000 to start building the kingdom of Yahweh on this earth, they will be fulfilling this that we see here, but in a spiritual sense. The walls of Jerusalem, their protection of the chosen few who are protected by the instruction of shalom that comes from the scriptures, were being repaired, as in repairing the apostasy, repairing the doctrine because of the apostasy. And the broken places began to be filled. All the holes within the doctrine began to be filled. All the issues that are in the Christian doctrine began to be understood, that they became very wroth. So the enemy became very angry because he knows that we are building the kingdom of Yahweh on this earth through the Ruach HaKodesh. Verse 8. And all of them conspired. But they say that we are conspiracy nuts. And all of them conspired together to come to fight against Jerusalem and to do harm to it. But we prayed to our Elohim and set a watch against them day and night because of them. But we prayed to our Elohim. So look how the enemy is going to come against us for sure, as we see in scriptures in Daniel and so on and so forth, as the enemy is doing with the injection, for instance. All of them conspired together to come to fight against Jerusalem and to do harm to it. But we prayed to our Elohim. Not only prayed, we also set a watch against them day and night because of them. So we must pray, but also keep our eyes open, not to fall in their traps, as a lot of people who claim to be believers are doing so, sadly. And Yahudah said, the strength of the burden bearers is weakening. Yahudah said, the strength of the burden bearers is weakening, and there is so much rubbish that we are unable to build the wall. The strength of the burden bearers is weakening because of the attack of the enemy, the strategy of the beast against the chosen. Those who bear the burden of the people will become weak at certain times. That is when we need of Yahweh and scriptures and faith in order to strengthen ourselves in Mashiach. But it says, and there is so much rubbish that we are unable to build the wall, as in the apostasy, the false doctrine. They speak so much rubbish. The false pastors speak so much rubbish that they are unable to build. They may build a huge church for thousands of people to go there, but they cannot build the temple of Yahweh, for they do not know Yahweh, sadly. Verse 11. And our adversary said, let them not know or see it until we come into their midst and shall kill them and cause the work to cease. So, and our adversary said, let them not know or see it until we come into their midst and shall kill them and cause the work to cease. And it came to be when the Yahudim who dwelled near them came, that they said to us 10 times, from whatever place you turn, they are against us. So just like the enemy is trying to make our work cease, what Yahweh is doing to us. It says, and it came to be when the Yahudim who dwelled near them came, that they said to us 10 times, as in the celestial perfection, heavenly perfection, the 10 commandments, the 10 sayings through which Yahweh created the earth. They said to us 10 times, from whatever place you turn, they are against us. This is important because Yahweh said that we will be hated by all because of his name. We will be hated, despised by all because of his name. But he who perseveres until the end, he shall be saved. So from whatever place you turn, they are against us. And that's how it is nowadays. When we are against the injection, no matter where you turn, they are against us. So I said men behind the lower parts of the wall at the openings. And I said the people according to their clans, with their swords, their spears, and their bows. Swords, spears, and bows. And I looked and rose up and said to the nobles, and to the deputy rulers, and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the great and awesome Yahweh, and fight for your brothers, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. So look how they are building, but now they have to prepare to fight. They have to prepare for war, because even though we are building the kingdom of Yahweh at the moment, we are at a spiritual war, as we see in Ephesians. So at the same time as we build the temple of Yahweh, his kingdom on this earth, by spreading the message of the good news of Mashiach, the true Mashiach, Yahushua, we also are fighting against the enemy, the beast, the Satan, who wants to stop us. And I looked and I rose up and said to the nobles and to the deputy rulers and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the great and awesome Yahweh, and fight for your brothers, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it came to be when our enemies heard that it was known to us, and that Elohim had brought their counsel to naught, that all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work. So Yahweh protected them, and they didn't have to as many times actually fight, for Yahweh was fighting for them. And it came to be when our enemies heard that it was known to us, for Yahweh revealed it to them, to the people that lived near them. In our case, Yahweh will reveal to us, well, in many ways, natural and also spiritual. And it came to be when our enemies heard that it was known to us, and that Elohim had brought their counsel to naught, what they were trying to do didn't work, that all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work. And it came to be from that time on, listen to this, that half of my servants were working in the work, while the other half were holding the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the breastplates. And the rulers were behind all the house of Yahudah. So the last, as NejemYah gives orders to the chosen few, and just like each will have a different job and talent and everything else, some will be preaching, for instance, doing the work, and others will be prepared to fight, protecting the congregation from the enemy, protecting those who work, pretty much through the prayers. So some will intercede by prayer, through prayer, and others will use their gifts to bring the message to more people. And it came to be from that time on that half of my servants were working in the work, while the other half were holding the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the breastplates. And the rulers were behind all the house of Yahudah, who were building on the wall. And the rulers were behind all the house of Yahudah, who were building on the wall, and those bearing burdens, those loading, working with one hand in the work and with the other holding a weapon. That's how we must be. Exactly. While we work with one hand, we have a weapon on the other one, just in case the enemy comes to fight. We must defend ourselves, fight back, destroy the enemy to continue the work. So who were building on the wall, and those bearing burdens, those loading, working with one hand in the work and with the other holding a weapon. Just like right and left, mercy and justice. The work of mercy, the good news of Mashiach paying for our sins. And then the other hand, the weapon, as the last who comes to fight to bring justice. As for the builders, each one had his sword girded at his side as he built. As for the builders, each one had his sword girded at his side as he built. And the one who sounded with the shofar was beside me. And the one who sounded, that's right, Omar. Nice. And the one who sounded with the shofar was beside me. For instance, like beside the last will be Eliyahu, who is like a shofar, for he announces the coming of the last, well, the first, as he did as Yahuhanan. As for the builders, each one had his sword girded at his side as he built. Each and every one of the chosen few will have to have his sword at his side when building the kingdom of Yahweh. That sword being the word of Yahweh, the name of the Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, as we see in Revelation 19:13, that the name of the Son is the word of Yahweh. And as we know, the word of Yahweh is the sword of his Ruach. As for the builders, each one had his sword girded at his side as he built. That's the chosen few building the kingdom with the sword of Yahweh. And the one who sounded with the shofar was beside me. And I said to the nobles and to the deputy rulers and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated far from one another on the wall. In whatever place you hear the voice of the shofar, join us there. Our Elohim fights for us. So look how prepared they were, because they had to be ready for war at any time. So they had their weapon, and NejemYah told them, when you hear the shofar, come to where the shofar sounds to fight. Yahweh fights for us. So, and I said to the nobles and to the deputy rulers, like the chosen few who are kings and priests, and to the rest of the people, the many, the work is great and large, and we are separated far from one another on the wall. Isn't it amazing that since we are in the end times, we are all separated far from one another, because we're spread across the four corners of the earth. So the same thing here. And isn't it interesting that the whole earth is surrounded by a huge wall of ice? The work is great and large, and we are separated far from another. We are separated far from one another on the wall, far from one another on the four corners of the earth. In whatever place you hear the voice of the shofar, as in the chosen few scattered across the four corners of the earth. And NejemYah says, when you hear the voice of the shofar, go there. As in when you hear the last, who is the voice. And it's also called the voice of the shofar in Thessalonians, because Yahweh comes with the voice of the archangel, the voice of the shofar. That is Michael coming as a shofar, to be the voice of Yahweh, for Yahushua is the word. So the first is the word, the last is the voice. So Mashiach also said that the sheep listen to the voice of the good shepherd and follow him. So in whatever place you hear the voice of the shofar, join us there. As in the chosen few gathering, when they hear the voice of the shofar or the good shepherd. Join us there. Our Elohim fights for us. Yahweh will fight for us. Yahweh will manifest as the voice of the shofar that will gather the chosen few from the four corners of the earth. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the break of the day until the stars appeared. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the break of the day until the stars appeared. And at that time, which when it comes to this, first of all, look how it mentions first the break of the day, because that's when the day begins, not during the afternoon as the Jewish people claim and followed in their calendar. Until the stars appeared, until the night. This also shows the 7 years, which are separated 3.5 and 3.5. The first 3.5 years of the last 7 represent the 12 hours of day. The last 3.5 years represent the 12 hours of darkness. So we labor in the work, and half of them, as in the first half, held the spears from the break of the day, meaning from the beginning of the last 7 until the stars appeared, until the second half started, until the night started. And at that time, I also said to the people, let each man and his servant spend the night in Jerusalem. Let each man and his servant spend the night in Jerusalem. Just like the chosen few, after being laboring in the work for that first half of the last 7 with weapons because of the spiritual fight from the beginning of the last 7 until the second half, it says, let each man and his servant spend the night in Jerusalem, like the chosen few and the many. Man and his servant spend the night, as in the last 3.5 years, in the prepared place of Revelation 12, represented by Jerusalem here. I hope that's understood. Just like the chosen few will be for the last half in the prepared place, here we see spend the night in Jerusalem. Let each man and his servant spend the night in Jerusalem, and they shall be our guard by night and for the work by day. So neither I nor my brothers nor my servants nor the men of the guard who followed me, none of us took off our garments, each one his weapon, even at the water. So neither I nor my brothers nor my servants nor the men of the guard who followed me, none of us took off our garments. Our garment is Mashiach, and we must remain in Mashiach in order to present ourselves before the Father and not be condemned. So none of us took off our garments, each one his weapon, even at the water. Once again, the water of life is Mashiach, who happens to be also the weapon. So the sword of Yahweh, each one his weapon, even at the water. We must always be aware that we are at a spiritual fight. This is very important. My point is that even when we are at a feast or a party, even when we are rejoicing, we must keep guard of the fact that the enemy is trying to take away that joy, the fact that the enemy is trying to bring us down. And if we are not watching, if we are not guarding, then the enemy will succeed. And all of a sudden, we won't know why, but we will be all sad, depressed, and all of that if we're not careful. Just like we might get angry at a brother for something that was a misunderstanding, for something that was interpreted the wrong way or whatever. So each one his weapon, even at the water. No matter what we are doing, we must always remember that we are at a spiritual fight, and the enemy will come and try to fight us and take us out pretty much. So that's how that chapter ends. I hope that was clear.